Oh, hey, welcome to So Aligned Living. I am Dr. Toya Davis, and this is Ask Me Anything. So if you are new to me, I jump on every now and then. I used to be really consistent with it. Um, Now I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to make this a regular thing, but I jump on and I answer questions that you may have just kind of watching. You can drop them in the chat. And I have people who have pre-submitted questions and I will be answering those. All right. So if you are new to me or new to my channel, I am all about helping people identify where they're operating in ideas, programs, beliefs that are keeping you from getting to the best and highest version of your life. My goal is to help you live a life that lights you up from the inside out. And the way that we get to that is by really identifying the things that are keeping us from getting there. Oftentimes, it's things that we aren't really aware of, right? And so I do this kind of by looking through a spiritual lens. So while you are joining me, I would love for you to hit the like, subscribe, and share button. Also, let me know that you're here. I would love, because tonight's conversation is designed to be interactive, I would absolutely love to know when you join me where you are. Say hi so that I can respond back. And again, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to get started with some questions that came in on the site. Okay. And just so you know, when I do Ask Me Anythings, there is a link to submit questions. So if you go to chihealinginstitute.com/ask, I think /ask, you can always submit a question there. Hi, Smiling Happily. Thanks for joining me. You can always submit a question there. All right. All right. So I am going to, let's see. Some of these questions were big questions that I can't really answer in the live, but some of these questions were larger. Hey, Pineapple Guy, some of these questions were larger than I want to just kind of give a short snippet to. And so I am going to do a whole separate video for that. You didn't catch how to submit the question. You can drop it in the chat. If you have one now, you are free to drop it in the chat. But in general, when I'm not doing live like this, there is a link, chihealinginstitute.com/ask, where you're always able to drop me a question. And when I get questions in that way, I kind of just sprinkle them in throughout. So they may appear on a YouTube conversation, they may appear in a newsletter. I might do a separate video about it. So it really just depends. But if you have a question for tonight and you didn't pre-submit it, feel free to drop it in the chat and I will absolutely get to it. All right. So let me start. So the first question I'm going to answer says, if someone from our soul group doesn't complete their soul contract, does that affect the whole soul group from elevating when we get back to the spirit realm? So I'm going to break this down. Short answer is no, right? But just for context, because not everybody is kind of at the same level of understanding what that question even means. So our soul group are those people that we have experienced life with in previous iterations of life, right? And we have decided sometimes that, we're going to come back in this lifetime and we're going to live life together, or we're going to meet up with each other or whatever. Or sometimes it is simply we have incarnated and we've had this relationship in past lives. And in this lifetime, I may have not said that I am going to do something with you in this lifetime, right? You ever went somewhere and like I have a friend, no matter where we go, no matter what city we're in, no matter what country we're in, he is going to know somebody there, right? It's the craziest thing to me. But it's not planned, right? So it's like you show up, somebody from your same hometown is in this whole other state, in this whole other city, and y'all walk in and you're like, hey. So technically, they will be a part of the same group, the group of Tallahassee, Florida, right? But they didn't coordinate or decide or have conversation that they were going to be at this other location together. It just happened that way. So I'm bringing that up because just because we're a part of the same soul group doesn't mean that every incarnation that we have together, we have agreed that we are going to have some type of impact or effect on each other. Where it does come into play is now, let's say, said person in this soul group says, you know what? In this lifetime, I really want to work on developing my ability for leadership. That's so random. Developing, let me do another example. In this lifetime, I really want to work on self-love. I've like in some past iterations, in some past lives, I have not valued myself and I've deprioritized myself. In this lifetime, I really, really want to work on that. And so you as that person, as a part of that person soul group, you're like, no problem. I got you. I'm going to be down on earth in this same time and I can help you learn that lesson. Okay. And y'all arrive and now you have agreed to help that person learn that lesson. Those things are separate. So if the person who is working to learn that self-love doesn't learn it in this lifetime, that is not a reflection on you. You did your part because you were here and you were available and you were able to help them, right? Them completing the lesson had nothing to do with you. So I hope that that makes sense. So again, short version to that, the short answer to that question was no. The question again was, if someone from our soul group doesn't complete their soul contract, does that affect the whole soul group from elevating when we get back to the spirit realm? Let me add this part too. I often talk about this idea of the individuated self, right? So simply what I mean is that me as a soul, even though I may be in concert or in connection with other people, I am always an individuated aspect of myself working to achieve the best and highest version of whatever it is that myself has set out to do. There are other players who are in that game of life with me, but it is my responsibility. It is my learning. It is my evolution, right? That I am, no one else's evolution is dependent on my evolution. All right. So I got a question in the chat. Says, why am I always seeing double-digit numbers? What is the message behind them? So this is when people talk about like angel numbers or really any numbers, right? I am of the school of thought, and y'all, I'm gonna be very like, this is me. Take what resonates, dismiss what doesn't, right? I believe that everything has significance. The significance is based on the thing that you give it, right? So, for example, 11 is my number, right? Um, Anytime I see 11 for me, I know that that means that I am doing the thing that I'm supposed to do. If I go and Google, what does 11 mean? 11, that Google is going to give me some other interpretation of what the number 11 means. Why? Because it's based on what the number meant to them, right? And if enough people write the same thing, or even if I wrote something super, super crazy, but I had enough power or I was loud for a long enough time, then that becomes the meaning, right? So for me, I don't take other people's the thing that other people ascribe to certain things. What I do is work on, and what I would offer for you is to work on finding the pattern. So when you see the double digit numbers, what's happening? Okay, you know what? When I saw that double digit number the other day, it was right before I got stuck in some crazy traffic. Ooh, and then I saw the double digit numbers again right before there was a holdup with me trying to do such and such and such, right? So you have to figure out what the meaning is and then make sense of it as it relates to you. And only because when we are receiving signs, and although right now this question is about the double-digit number, this is a much larger concept because I get this question all the time. Like when people call me, like, I don't want to interpret your dreams because my lens and my ethos and what I ascribe meaning to is not going to be the same as yours. So when the thing is happening, it's coming through your filter and through your lens and through your relationship that you have with these energies and with these entities. And so they're speaking to you in a way and in a language that is specific to you. So I can't then take my lens and put that on top of that and try to give you meaning. Okay. There are aspects and ways that we have kind of collectively come into agreement about certain things. And not that I'm a rebel, but I probably also would push up against some of those. So all of that to say, find your track how those things are coming, find that for yourself, and then be intentional about understanding what those things mean for you. All right. Regina says, let me know if that was useful. All right. Regina says, when calling our ancestors into a session, is there any special way to close the session? That is a fabulous question, Regina. Yes. What I like to do is release the energies. My statement is I release the energies back to the place from which you've come, right? There are much more elaborate ways and other things and stuff like that. That is a very simple, straightforward. It's like I called you in, and now I'm going to dismiss you. So just always think of that. The language that you use can vary, but you just want to think of if I brought you into my house and now I'm done, I want to make sure that you leave. And how am I going to do that? I'm simply, just like I simply asked you to come, I'm going to ask you to leave. All right. So that is how I would close the session. All right. So let me know, Regina, if that was useful for you. All right. Question on the about to say on the line I'm looking at them on my phone. So this is another one, another good one. Do souls have a gender? So then it says, if someone will always be reincarnated as the same gender, or can it change? So do souls have a gender? Will they be reincarnated as the same gender, or can it change? It can absolutely change. And what's really interesting, not only, hold on to your hats, right? Not only can your gender change, your ethnicity can change, your, like, all of the things, right? Literally, when we incarnate, when we decide, you know what, I'm going to go take another run down there in this earth school, we are doing it to learn and have certain experiences. And sometimes the person could be like, you know what, I'm using this as a real example. There is someone who in the past life could have been one color and recognize that they had certain privilege, certain information, certain knowledge. They had a way that they were able to maneuver and move things, and recognize that another class of people didn't have that same privilege. And they could have come back in this lifetime to say, you know what, I'm going to be an advocate for that group. I'm going to help that group. And because I know the role that I want to play in this particular lifetime, I need to show up in this way. I need to show up with these characteristics, with this type of status, with all of these things. And so, yes, I know you asked about gender and I talked about something else, but yes, you can be different genders. Typically, what happens though is the changing like that happens early in our incarnations, right? So once a soul has kind of continued to reincarnate, and this is a big generalization, right? Because again, all souls are different, but when you continue to reincarnate, there becomes a point where you're like, no, like, I am clear. I need to reincarnate as a Black woman every single iteration of my existence. Maybe a few generations, something will change. But for me right now, I am perfectly happy to set my intention to come back in my next lifetime as a woman, a Black woman, right? But there are people who are probably having experiences right now who is like, yeah, no, don't sign me up for this team again. right? But where I was going was typically early on in our process, after you've reincarnated for so many times, someone locks in, right? So in my Akashic record sessions, generally, and this is me again kind of making a broad generalization across the clients that I've had, typically when I get back past maybe like 4 lifetimes, the person has been consistent, right? So if I'm looking at them 4 lifetimes back, if they right now are a woman in black, they've probably also been a woman in black, a woman in black. Sometimes around the 3rd lifetime, but for the most part, it's been consistent. When I start to look back farther than that, then that's when I have like, oh, you were Persian. Oh, you were this. Oh, you were a man. All right. So that was that question. Yeah, Malika said she was a black man in her first life. If you do not have a child, is it the end of you returning to Earth? Absolutely not. So this also goes back to, do I have a live? I think I have a live. I think I have a video on this. Something I'm not good with remembering titles, but there's a video. If you go and look through my videos, probably if you go to the ancestors playlist, that might be the fastest way to start. But I'm sure it has something to do with like ancestral lineage versus soul lineage, right? I'm looking at those two things. So I can't remember the exact title of the full video, but something like that. So the question says, if you do not have a child, is it the end of you returning to Earth? And my answer for absolutely not is because, well, there are a lot of reasons for that, but I'm going to go big picture. There is a difference between ancestral lineage, which is that lineage that is by blood, right? So the children and the children and the children, right? That is ancestral lineage, and your soul lineage. You as a soul, going back to earlier, are your own individuated self, not attached to anything other than source, however you perceive source to be. And in each of these incarnations, as your own individuated soul self, your primary objective is to evolve, ascend, grow, learn, right? Enough to get back to the place where you remember and are connected to that supreme aspect of source. Okay. Now, how you choose to do that as that individuated soul self can vary. Sometimes people will say, I'm going to come through this particular ancestral lineage consistently. Similar to how I just talked about the men and the changing, right? This ancestral line, I'm coming through them consistently. Okay. And they will continue to be born through that particular lineage. They will just keep recycling through that lineage. But that doesn't have to be the case. Because again, you as a soul could be like, yeah, that lifetime when I was down there with that Davis family, that was cool. But now I want to go and be a Rodriguez. Right? So your reincarnation has nothing to do with your individuated soul self, which is the part that is actually reincarnating, has nothing to do with your ancestral lineage, unless at soul level that is a choice that you make. Now, that is a larger conversation, because I know that is not like the popular going narrative. But that's what I'm going to give you right now. But if you go back and find that other video, I'm sure I have the fuller kind of conversation around that. All right. You are very, very welcome. When loved ones transition, does the decision of their reincarnation or that period of adjusting has anything to do with the energy or our ability to connect with them? Let me read that again. When the loved ones transition, so somebody has died, does the decision of, okay, so when they decide to come back, the decision of their reincarnation or their period of adjusting, I'm assuming in that soul level place, have anything to do with the energy of the people who are still here, ability to connect with them? Tell me if I'm listening, saying that question if I've rephrased that question properly, Gabrielle. And while she does that, I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege and remind you to like, subscribe, and share. If you are joining me, let me know that you are here in the chat. I would love to love to see that. And then also, there have been a lot of questions about the soul. This Saturday, December 6th, I am having a master class on Zoom. It's from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's a live class where I am talking about soul groups and helping you understand, basically, as you are related and a part of these various soul groups, what that actually looks like, what soul groups do, how they connect, what your traits are, what your talents are, what your skills are, all of that stuff based on being a part of these soul groups, and helping you identify kind of what your primary soul group is. So that class is happening on Saturday. And wait, y'all, I'm proud of myself because, oh no, I thought I made a banner, but I didn't. It went away. But I think the link is in the description. Yes, the link is in the description. So chihealinginstitute.com/soul group. All right. So back to Gabriel's question. When someone dies, there are a few reasons why that particular soul will stay, what I like to say, earthbound, or kind of tethered to the earth plane. I actually think I got a video on this too. Why that soul will stay earthbound or tethered to the earth plane. Sometimes it's because, and so this is what can impact their reincarnation, right? Because if they are still attached to this 3D plane, if they're still attached to this world, then of course that is going to impact their ability to reincarnate because their soul hasn't actually left this plane. So sometimes that anchoring or tethering can happen because of a tragic death, right? So someone who, I like to say, like when that happens, the soul literally kind of is in shock, right? The thing happens so fast that there is not time for the separation. So something tragic happens, something unexpected happens. Typically, people who experience like sicknesses or something where you've had the experience, they don't typically stay. But the other part of that is sometimes souls stay because of particular people, right? I had a mediumship client once who the woman died in a car accident. She had some little kids, and she basically was still here. And when we did the session, it was because she had left some like I can't remember now if it was money or paperwork or something that like needed to be found in order for her kids to be safe. So essentially, like she was choosing to stay because she wanted to make sure that her kids were okay. And we did the session. I got the information. Look here, go here. The paperwork is here, right? We did that. I did a follow-up session with that person a few weeks later, and she had released this plane. Oftentimes with older couples, people who have been together for so long, that's why oftentimes you'll see like one of the partners will die, and then shortly thereafter the other one will die. Sometimes that other partner is like still hanging around waiting on that other person, right? And then they'll release together. The energy of the people who are here, if we are, and this is cultural, right? So I'm going to say this, but I'm also going to acknowledge that different cultures have different traditions around kind of what we're going to call that period of mourning. But the reason is consistent. Why it's happening. If a soul has left, so they died, the person is gone, and that soul is trying to release this plane, and a bunch of people in this earthly realm start essentially calling that energy back down, right? So everybody's crying, everybody's like, oh no, don't leave, don't go, all of it. But it's like a large, not like one or two people, not like 3 or 4 people, right? We don't have that much energetic pull to impact something, in that realm, but a mass of people kind of directing that energy towards a soul, it could impact that soul's ability to release quicker or to elevate faster because there's this other energy that's pulling it down. That's why in some cultures, they go through kind of this period of silence or this period of like, don't do this, because they don't want to interfere with that particular soul. They don't want it to be torn. Like, who do I listen to? Do I follow the light? Oh, wait, they're calling me down here, right? So that's why some cultures have that. But in general, no. The soul would have to make that choice to be like, well, I want to stick around, or I want to hang around, or I want to do this. But that's a soul level choice again, and it's not about us, the people. Okay. Lotus Mindset says having trouble accessing the Akashic, but your cards keep saying Akashic. Any suggestions on figuring this out? Well, my first question is going to be, have you taken one of my classes? Lotus Mindset. There could be a multitude of reasons on why you're accessing the Akashic records. And actually what's coming to me in this moment is that you're actually not having an issue accessing the Akashic record. You're having an issue trusting that you're accessing the Akashic records. And so I would probably suggest that you do some mindset work around or reframe your expectations, right? So here are my recommendations. One, I'm going to recommend a book, one of my books, particularly though, not the book on accessing the Akashic records. I would actually recommend for you the journal. So, so this one here, because it's going to help you track, because I believe that what's coming again is that it's a belief thing. And so what the journal is going to help you do is identify and give you very concrete markers. It's going to give you things that you can kind of look for and say, oh, okay, wait, right. So you get to build that trust bank. So that's part one. Part two is sorry, I'm listening. Part two is, no, we're going to stop. So it's about trust. It's about building trust, reframing the thing. There's a video that I have, think is, if you go into the Akashic Records playlist, it's like 5 reasons you can't access the Akashic Records. I don't know what it says. Look through the titles. One will jump out at you. Listen to that one. All right. But be clear about your intention. Release your expectation. Oh, that's what I was going to say before. Release your expectation on what it needs to look like. Set smaller time frames for yourself. So maybe just set a time frame of, you know what, I'm going to set the intention to go in and access the Akashic Records. And today I'm going to be in here for 5 minutes, right? Or 3 minutes. Or so like set small time increments, set very clear intentions, go in, be mindful of everything that's happening, come out, release the pressure, release the what you think is supposed to happen, and then track and journal that. All right. Smiling Happily says, in one of my episodes, I spoke of a yellow book of prayers. What is the title and the author of the book? Probably. Did I say I didn't like it? Oh, and now I can't say the book after I said that part, huh? Ooh. Was I talking what in that particular episode? Because the book that came to my mind, the only yellow book of prayers I don't like. So I don't know what context I would have said that in. Was I talking about like doing misas or spiritual gatherings? Smiling Happily, let me know. You are very, very welcome. Oh, glad. Thank you for getting the soul bundle. So the soul bundle that she's talking about, I have a free download with I think like 10 plus resources. It's a mix of pretty much all of the things that I talk about and do. So there's some resources around ancestral work. There's some resources around Akashic records. There's some free affirmation coloring pages. There's a song, and I think there is a video on using selenite for kind of clearing your energetic field. But it's free. If you go to chihealinginstitute.com/free bundles, but all of the links are also, if you just go to my links page, right? All of the links are there. If you experience someone's spirit immediately right after their death within 2 weeks, does this mean they immediately reincarnated the opposite? No. So also, okay, that is a large question. It's not a large question, but I don't like to give half information. Um, Short answer is no. It does not mean that they immediately reincarnated. People, our soul self is different when we die. Okay, here we go. The physical body of me and all that everyone knows me to be in this lifetime, when I die and people call my name, I'm putting that out there, call my name, elevate me, raise me. Don't be calling me for no foolishness now. But people call my name. They are calling and tapping into the essence of what I represented in this 3D reality during this time frame. What do I mean? They are tapping into and acknowledging and remembering the imprint that I had when I lived in this life. When I die, though, the soul aspect of me, the part that is eternal, the part that actually comes back for reincarnation, is different than the me that's sitting here right now that you're going to call on. And that's why I say this is a much larger conversation. And I hate giving partial information, but it's deeper than, like, it's what I talk about or it's what I teach when I start doing my ancestral lineage healing work, right? That's where I really dive into understanding what's happening between the soul self and kind of the ancestor self and all of these different parts. But no, if someone comes to you in spirit form, just acknowledge and recognize that as that person's spirit, right? And the other thing that's coming up for me to offer here is, because a lot of questions kind of about like elevation and being stuck. When someone who is dead comes to you in a form that is in a dream, or in a spirit, like you might see it, right? You might hear them, you might feel them, you might recognize that they're there. That typically means that that soul is not tethered to this plane, okay? Because they're returning to you in spirit. When a soul has not released this plane, what we call a disincarnate spirit or earthbound spirit, someone that is still tethered, they haven't released, they haven't completed that process. They don't necessarily come to you in that same type of way, right? This is when you hear like the people who are like, things were flying around my house, right? Or there is an energetic thing that happens, right? When that, because the energy is still tethered to the 3D reality, which is different than an energy who is coming to visit you, but who is not tethered to the 3D reality. I hope that makes sense. Am I going to write a children's book helping children learn and understand ancestral severance, and one to help them understand death? So actually, thank you for this question. When I wrote the Path to the Ancestor series, I did write a third book, which is for children, to help children understand and develop a connection to the ancestors. What happened though, once I got those first two published, my meter, my energy tank had dropped to zero. So I didn't have the push to go through another round of editing, layout design, formatting, all of that stuff for that third book. But know that it is there. It is ready to go. And I just need to basically put it back into the rotation, because I am currently working on another book. It still is not ready to go yet, but I do have one for children. I do have one for children. Okay, you just found me a week ago. An example. Give me more, for example. Okay, you got my book in your cart. Great. I thought I was, but then that leads to my second question. What bundle? Yeah, so again, if you go in my description, you should see something that says chihealinginstitute.com/links. If you go to that links, I think it's towards the bottom. Something says like free, it says soul alignment bundle. Or likewise, you could just go to my website and there's a thing for you to pop your information in to receive the bundle. All right. You think I caught your second question and not your first one? Okay. I sleep with a selenite tower under my mattress at my feet. Oh, cool. Um, two eldest children, especially oldest, best way to support them, even if they don't ask. But now I see, but now how I see fit. Wait, what is best for what? I'm gonna need you to drop that question. Oh wait, did you write it again? I think the eldest may be caught up in some lineage trapdoors, or it could be endokis attached to them, invited consciously or unconsciously. Rephrase your first question for me. That was a little too much having to decipher. My brain is like, what? I don't know what's happening. Gabrielle said, wow, I don't know how to explain it, but I immediately knew what you were about to say when you paused. I'm in the right place. Great. Love to hear that, Gabrielle. I'm going to take another question from my online people. Oh, and I see, okay, I see our soul larger context here in the question. So for one of these, thank y'all. Like, subscribe, and share. Oh my gosh, y'all. Thank you so much. This is random. It was not random. It's tied together. Thank y'all so much. You have like shown up and showed out, I would say, in the best ways. So moving into October, my goal was, I got to tell the whole story. I think I told this before. I'm going to say it again. So on October 3rd, I had 503 subscribers. My goal moving into October was to get to 500 subscribers. And to date, I have like over 2,000, like 2,500. And I'm just like so grateful for that. I'm grateful for all of the people who leave comments on the videos, the songs. People are telling me that y'all are listening to the songs. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we have Mindset Monday. So there's a playlist which you should be able to just hit play and get all of the best vibes, and you don't have to like skip and pause because the stuff that's coming in isn't good for your spirit. Nope, it is designed to be able to just ride out and help you bring all the things that you want into your life. And so I just want to say thank y'all for the feedback. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. I can't see if you share, but thank you for sharing, because I'm sure that that's how some of the other people have gotten the information. So thank y'all for that. All right. So going back to this other question here, I was going to do one from a phone, but I'm going to do this one because she clarified it for me. So, best ways to support kids, even if they don't see it, that is best for them. Okay. So this is the version of the question I'm about to answer. And then you could tell me if this ain't it. Okay. So the best way to support kids, even if, because some of these kids are older, right? Some of these kids are older. So how do you support kids who are not necessarily still in your immediate purview, right? Where they're dependent on you to do the things and all of that stuff. And they're out there now just kind of living their life, doing whatever they're doing. That's crazy. I actually just had a client. This came up for a client. I want to say last week. That's crazy. What I would say is that as mothers, we are always connected to our children, because the portal, the actual portal, that wasn't where I was going first though, but the umbilical cord, or the belly button, and the thing that creates that umbilical cord is an actual tether, right? Even though, it drops off, we cut it, whatever that happens, that actually does serve as a connection point. between me and or you and that particular person. Um I'm sorry, I lost my sorry, I lost my thought somewhere over there. But my what so I'm saying that to say that even though the child is not in your physical response in your physical ability to impact, they are always in your spiritual sphere to be able to impact. And it requires you to understand that everything is energy, right? So this is what I always say, talk about all things are energy. And once you can get to the energetic aspect of something, then that's how you start to learn to be able to control or shift or adjust or do these various things, right? When you are able to understand that all things are energy. So I want you to hold in your mind that you, the mother, and that child is always and forever connected through this particular thing. And so I would offer that you use visualization, that you use intention, that you use some type of energy mechanism where you call the energy of that child into your sphere, because we actually don't need the physical body for a lot of stuff, right? The physical body, the meat suit is probably the least advanced aspect of our whole self, right? So in order to impact things, if you were able to connect with that particular energy in a different way, the physical aspect of them, like I said, is the least important aspect of them, which again is why things like ancestral lineage healing works, because we're not dealing with them on a personal level. We are dealing with the energies and the energetics of that particular person, and we're dismantling that. So my offering to you is that you need to learn how to tap into the energy of the things that you're trying to release and dismantle. And speaking from an ancestral thing, so again, I have so many at this point programs that are around and books, right? You could do the 33-day ancestral path to the ancestor work, where it is very intentional about identifying pathologies and traumas and behaviors that are being passed down, that are being lived out, right? And you can just offer that to the child because it takes you out of it, right? It gives them something that they can do, that they can take ownership of in their own time. And it doesn't, and it's not so strict and stringent that they feel like they have to follow this particular thing, right? But it allows them to see the patterns while connecting with their ancestors, while unraveling them, while creating shifts, but in a way that doesn't feel oppressive. Also, what's coming to me right now for you is that a lot of this is not, I don't want to use the word rebellion, but it's almost like you can't suggest anything that's gonna be right, right? You can't, you almost have to give them or create things where is they feel like they thought of it, or that they're taking the lead in it, that it is them that's spearheading this thing. So for you, you do the work on the back end energetically, and you try to create opportunities for them to latch into something that you like. If, and you mentioned the Endoki, right? If you think it's that energy, go to your stuff and be like, how can I get this off? What's happening? What's going on? All right. So let me know if that helped you, if I was way off base with my answer, or if I got to your question. All right. So Smiling Happily, we got the Everyday I Pray book by Iyanla Vanzant. So if you were talking about when I said what I use when I'm doing bibliomancy, so bibliomancy is like when you pick a book. Okay. Bibliomancy is when you pick the book and you like have it suggest. Yes. So the books that I suggested was Iyanla Vanzant's Every Day I Pray. Yes. There's another book. What's her name? It's another prayer type book, but it's Black based prayers that were written. Oh, I can't think of her name right. I think, is it Ayoko Wiles? That's not it. That's not it. I can't think of it right now. But it's another like prayer based books. Yeah, Every Day I Pray is great. You picked up your Bible for the first time in years. Let me tell you how the pushback from that. So I did a video. If you didn't watch, the video was my ancestors talk to me. I don't know what the name of the video was. I talk to my ancestors every day. Something about communication with ancestors. And in this video, I said one of the ways that you can receive information from your ancestors is by using something called bibliomancy. Bibliomancy is where you pick up a book and you receive a message, right? Many ways to do it. And I said that one of the books that I use is the Bible. Y'all, the people in the comments were not here for me and my Bible. Now, this is not ask me anything. This is a Toya telling you her like pet peeve, right? Well, one, it's fine because clearly those aren't my people. And so I am also team, like, I'm not trying to call you into my sphere and into my world if you're not my people, right? I am never on, like, I'm going to try to convince you of something. I'm going to give you some information, take what works, take what doesn't work, right? No harm, no foul for me or to me. But when people push back from a space of, one of the comments was like, how can you suggest a book that has oppressed our people for all of these years? At no point in my conversation about using the Bible to receive a message did I say, you're going to take the Bible and follow its literal wording. No point in that conversation. I can pick up a dictionary. I can ask my ancestors a question and pick up a dictionary, open the dictionary, and it's going to be a word that's going to answer exactly the question that I need. It literally doesn't matter the book. You have to be able to extrapolate what you need from the text, whatever the text is, to get to the answer that you just asked the question for. I'm not saying read the Bible and do what the Bible says. I'm saying ask a question, and then you're going to get something from the Bible, from your ancestors' perspective, who probably read the Bible, and you're going to allow it to inform whatever the question was. So that was just my everything, like, it was great. I mean, somebody was like, oh, but then you said that and I can't follow you. That's fine. Peace, love, and hair grease, right? All right. Now back to my questions. I'll be having my little moments. All right. So talk about the event this weekend. Yes. Okay. So somebody asked me to talk about the event this weekend. So again, this weekend, I am having on Saturday a soul group masterclass from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. It is a 3-hour class. In this class, so let me talk about soul groups, short version. We all have a point of origination that is not necessarily this lifetime. My assumption is that if you're listening to me and you're following me, that you have some level of elevation at soul level, which says that this isn't your first time being incarnated, right? So that's my base level assumption right there. And so from that base level assumption, I then get to make the next statement that says, because this isn't your first time being incarnated, we have all incarnated someplace originally. And that original place where we incarnate creates a imprint on us, right? The way that I always like to say it is, I am from Miami through and through. I live in Tallahassee now, but the Miami in me is the Miami in me. I'm going to be 60 years old, and that imprint that developed from that being the place where my formative years happened is going to forever be there, right? How I see, think, process, move through the world is going to always go through that lens. There is a certain there are just certain things that come with being born in that place, with having the friends that I have, with the terrain, with the environment, right? Because I was born there, me and cold weather, like, what is happening? Why can I not put on flip-flops in December? I don't understand. I'm in the wrong place. I need 2 layers of clothes. Like, that's too much, right? So when we're talking about soul groups, where you were first originated, or your soul point of origination, there are certain imprints that you have because of that. Okay. And the imprints that we're looking at, particularly in this class, are what are your traits, right? So, how are you designed to be in relation to other people? What are some of your natural proclivities, right? So, there are some soul groups that, because of where they were originally created, they don't like a lot of people, right? Too many people, too much crowding is like, okay. But that can be a soul level trait, right? So all of these things that are happening. So we're talking about that. And how you can understand, based on your soul group, these different ideas, these different classifications, and then understand how to help you find your own personal soul group. Some people take the class because when I do Akashic Records work, one of the things that I am looking for when someone is coming to do like a soul blueprint. So I have a lot of my students or a lot of the people who come and work with me who study the Akashic Records, right? And so this is also an opportunity for them to go deeper into understanding soul groups, because then it helps them understand how to work with their clients better, how to dive deeper into the Akashic Records. Examples of some of the common soul groups that you might hear are like Pleiadians, or when you hear people talk about like star seeds, or I can't think of any other soul groups right now, which is crazy because there are a lot of them. But that is what we're going to be talking about. So I hope that answered the question there. Sorry, y'all, trying to do multiple things. Okay. Yes. So yeah, the book thing is bibliomancy. Like, subscribe, share. Haha. But if Great Granny was Christian, she may have a message for me through exactly. Lumerian, yes. Like, why can't I? So Polarian, Lumerian, I literally can't think. Like, my brain is just not there. But there are a lot of soul groups, and so in the class on Saturday, we will be talking about the different ones in depth. And then I am very interactive in my teaching, right? I am never team, just give you information for the sake of giving you information. My goal is always to be able to have you apply that to your life in some type of way. So that's what we'll be doing. I don't think I have a video on star seeds. I don't think I've done any. I think I have videos on like what a soul group is. Big picture things. I don't think I've ever done, outside of my like Akashic Records classes, where I go into like where we start looking at what the soul groups are. I don't think I've ever done one specifically on like soul seeds or anything like that. Star seeds. All right, here we go. So I talked about this weekend. Y'all, I'm about to make it through all these questions. I'm proud of myself. Souls have a gender. I did that. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. How do you stay grounded when you're spending so much time with spirit? This person says they get a lot of downloads that comes to them through dreams, random messages about people, but then at times they feel untethered to the physical world. They know the messages are real because they've seen them come true, but sometimes it could just feel like they're spacey. And then there's a second part to this question, but let's tackle that first part first. All right. Actually, no. And the second part says that when they do readings and channelings and messages for people, they sort of feel guilty for charging, but they get so exhausted and drained afterward. At what point did I decide it was time for me to ask for that energy exchange. So one of my fears, y'all, and that's why this question was like, one of my fears was actually becoming untethered to this 3D reality. There are so many people that we see out in the world who are living in this in-between space, right? When you see people like out on the street who are having like psychosis experience, not all like, but psychosis, who are having like those periods, right? This sometimes that is people whose ability to kind of move and travel dimensionally is so heightened, right? And then sometimes they get on drugs to calm that, but then it actually diminishes the veil. So now they're like transitioning. And so my ability to move through space and time is so fast and happens so instantly. And now I have a much better grip on it. But there was a time when I was just like, whoa. And I literally had a fear of being the person that somebody had to call and say, y'all need to come and get her because we don't know what's happening. So I want to say that I recognize that question and I know that it comes from a very real place and I understand it. So when I offer this, that I'm going to say, know that this isn't just me pulling some stuff out of the air. Okay. The first part that I had to do was recognize that it was an irrational fear, right? And then I had to sit with, why is that a fear? So I had to go into understanding what things had transpired and why I say it was an irrational fear, because nothing had happened to me, not the people that I saw, but nothing had happened to me in this reality that would make me say that I could be so far out there that I could lose touch from reality, right? Consistently and just be gone. So I had to say, what is happening that is making me embrace that as a fear to the point that it is impacting my ability to do something else? So I always say things show up in 3 ways, right? The trauma, the trigger, the pattern, the whatever is either ancestral, it's karmic, or it's societal. Okay, those are the 3 things. So, oh, thank you so much, Regina. Oh, y'all, I got my first super sticker. Yay. I don't even know what it is, but thank you. I'm going to figure it out after the call. So ancestral, societal, or karmic. Okay. So I had to say something in one of these 3 things is causing me to have this belief and hang on to this for a reason. So once I dug into, I need to understand why, I recognized that there was a past life experience that I had that was causing me to be in this fear loop, was causing me to be in this fear cycle. So I had to come into awareness. Step 1 for me is, y'all, I am consistent no matter what I'm talking about, right? Step 1, we survey, which is going to bring us into awareness. So I figured out why I was having this thing, right? So now I needed to work through releasing and changing the narrative around that. I needed to give myself new inputs, new perspectives, say, nope, we are firmly rooted here in this reality. So I did the work. For me, I did that in my Akashic records because that's what I do, right? And it was a past life thing. So that's what I did. I did my work in the Akashic records to undo and change that narrative of that particular thing. And then in this 3D reality, nothing matters if, like, we can do all of the spiritual stuff that we are going to do, but if you don't do things in the physical form, if you don't take action, then none of the other things matter, right? So in the physical form, I had to consistently remind myself that I was safe. And I created a prayer that I do when I start my sessions. Okay. And in me doing that prayer, I put very intentional language. And so this is what I'm offering for you. I put very intentional language in that talks about my ability to travel and to come back, to receive information and to come back. At the end of a session, I am very clear. Somebody asked earlier about how do you, when you're doing a session with ancestors, how do you dismiss the ancestors? And I say, I tell them, I release you from this space. If you've ever had a session with me, at the end, before we're done, you will hear me say, I disconnect myself from whatever this thing is that we've done. Right. So I am very intentional about creating a protocol around going and coming back, accessing and disconnecting, tapping in and shutting off. I don't skip it. I don't forget it. I am consistent with it. Okay. The other thing is about part of this is poor, what I'm going to call, and this isn't a slight. Okay. This is where I poor energetic boundaries. And this is also around people who are like empaths and like I just feel all of these things, right? It's poor energetic boundaries, right? And so because once we identify, again, once you come into awareness of what the thing is, then you can change it. Okay. So what I would offer for you is to be very clear about what you are allowing your energy to do. So you task your energy, you task yourself, you task your body, and then you're honest with when I can't do this or that was too much. When I first started doing Akashic Records, my live classes, because I do attunements in them, the first class I said I'm going to set at 20 people, right? I did the 20 people, and because of the attunement that I did live, that took a lot out of me, right? But then I had the next class and more people wanted to come. So I went up. I went up to I think we ended up with maybe 26 people in the class. I did it. But at the end, I want to say I almost slept for 2 days. It was too much. My body couldn't handle the amount of energy that I needed to put out to hold that container for that many people for that long. So what did I do? I went back down. I reduced. I'm constantly in this space of figuring out what my energetic capacity is. When I won't do at this point, I don't do more than 3 readings in a day. When I first started, there was one day I did 7 readings, right? What happens? Your energetic field isn't strong enough to maintain that. So then you start to get seepage, right? So now we're pulling from an energy source that isn't the best version of me. Now I'm pulling from an energy source that's calling in other things. And that's where we start to have issues and challenges. So monitor for yourself what your energy looks like and feels like. Where was it peak? When did it drop? What did you do differently on this day when you felt good? Be intentional about opening, closing, connecting, disconnecting. Okay. That's what I got for you. And then on the cost thing, that's a big one. So, and you were anonymous, so and nobody know I'm talking to you. You know I'm talking to you, but other people need to hear this too. When we have fear around charging, okay, I was gonna go one way. They dropped something else in my head. I'm gonna offer this too, but I'm gonna go with the first one too. Oftentimes, this is a self-worth wound, right? The guilt around that you need to sacrifice yourself for someone else. Why do you feel that way? So I'm going to always send you back to yourself to ask yourself, why do I feel that way? Why do I feel that way? There is absolutely nothing wrong with getting paid for your services. What I do in my coaching clients, who are starting new services. I have someone who was working on the new thing, and she was like, I'm practicing. I said, okay, great. Let's set a number. This is how many free services you can do while you practice. You're very upfront. You tell people, I am learning, I'm figuring this out, I'm working on it. Boom. 10 people. Don't go past 10. This is your number. After 10, let's get your introductory price. Okay, great. How many are we going to do at this introductory price? Okay, fabulous. Don't go past this number. Once you get to that number, now I need you to go up in price again, right? And so what that's doing is, one, it's allowing that space for her to grow, to figure it out, to figure what doesn't work, to make the adjustments and the shifts. And then setting those hard deadlines and setting those hard like accountability markers says, okay, wait, now I'm checking. She sent me a thing. All right, on this date, I'm done with my last free session. I'm switching to a pay model on this date. Fabulous. Love to hear it. Right? Because what happens is when we have a pattern or something that is like that, we can't intellectualize ourselves out of it. This goes back to action. Once you identify the block, you have to take an action that is counter to the event. So I can't ruminate too long on why I'm doing the thing. I just got to break the habit. Even if it's in a small way, even if it's donation based. You know what? I'm going to do 5 people and I'm just going to ask for a donation of no less than $21. Allow yourself to feel that coming in, be thankful, sit with that energy of receiving. But where they're wanting me to go here also is sometimes that they're bringing up a lot of past life stuff. Sometimes, particularly for people who are in the healing space, in this incarnation is not our first time being healers, right? Or doing this work where we're doing this type of thing. And oftentimes there is some type of past life contract or vow or commitment that our soul is still hanging on to or is still caught up in, that basically says there is some type of thing around doing religious. Hold on, is my child still up? Yeah. Good night. Let me finish this. Sorry, y'all. It's past bedtime. I was like, I am hearing things. What is going on right now? That there is a past life thing, that a vow specifically that we may have taken, that oftentimes I'll see this a lot if someone in their past life was maybe a nun or some other type of spiritual clergy, right? And so in this lifetime, they may have some type of schism or ism around collecting money for spiritual things. Or in the past life, they could have exploited like spiritual services for gain. And so in this life, sometimes that is about kind of reversing or undoing that particular thing, right? So, but even in that, the action step is going to be the same, right? You got to take an action that is counter to the behavior that you're doing. All right. So I'm going to take this last. Do I have a fan going? Why, you hear something? I'm going to take this last question. Oh, Paula says she's from Brazil. Is it possible to attend the class online? Yes, the class is online. So it is on Zoom. And if you can't join us live during the time that it's happening, you absolutely will get the recording as a part of the thing. So you'll have access to the recording if you can't join us live. I do not have a video about deciphering dreams. I will never do a video about deciphering dreams. Similarly to what I talked about earlier, in that I believe that we attribute our own meanings to things, right? So I don't do dream interpretations. Will I be going into the stuff that I talked about earlier about the soul groups in this class this weekend? Yes, that's what we will be talking about and looking at those various soul groups this weekend. Last question. Do I have a process to harmonize with divine energy in general? I'll do that one. That might be my last question. Oh, my plant was moving and you felt like something was there. I do not have a fan. You're gonna have me going back to watch the replay. I do not have a fan. Does everyone soul groups come from a star system? No, they don't. There are multiple ways that there are star soul groups that exist in multiple aspects kind of throughout our galactic sphere, and not all of them have a star point of origin. So the last question that I said I was going to do for tonight. So again, thank y'all so much for joining me. I think what I'm gonna do is do this once a month. All right. So this time and day feels good to me. So the first Wednesday of the month feels like a really good time for me to kind of jump on and do this. This does not have to be your last time submitting questions. That chihealinginstitute.com/ask is always available. There are some questions that are still in there. Like someone asked a question about a twin flame. I'm actually going to do a video about that. So whoever asked that question, I didn't not see your question. I forgot it in this moment, but my intention with that video is to do it as with that question is to do it as its own separate video. So all of that to say, you're always welcome to drop questions. Okay. If I don't get to it throughout the month, I will definitely bring it up in the Ask Me Anything session. All right. What else is there happening? Just before I go, before I answer this last question, I have a retreat in Brazil. So someone mentioned that they were from Brazil. I have a retreat in Salvador, June 19th through the 27th. It is my Rooted in Freedom retreat. It is designed around releasing ancestral blockages and energy. I don't know why my mind just blanked on that. But we do a lot. We have a lot of fun. We explore, we dive into the culture, we experience, but we also do things to help elevate and lift our ancestral lineage, right? So that's happening. Soul Group, we talked about that. Like, subscribe, and share. We talked about that. All right. So to end us out tonight, the last how to enroll in the masterclass. Here, I mean, drop it. Chi Healing. Oh, cool. Institute.com/soul group. But also the link should be in the description. So how do we connect with the divine in general? I love this question as a kind of go out question. And my answer is going to seem so redactive and so simple, but it really is simple, right? Intention. And why do I say that it really is simple? When we ask the question, how do we connect with the divine? That's saying that your framing is creating a separation between you and the divine. And the reality is that you are an aspect of the divine, right? So you are not separate from it at any point, right? The law of oneness says that we are literally an aspect of that thing. And because you are an aspect of the divine source, God, whatever phrase you want to use, because you are an aspect of that, it is never something that is separate from you. It is simply something that you have to intentionally tap into. So, how would I say do this? Always say we're gonna always set our intention before we start something, right? So my intention is I want to receive clear, no, actually I'm going to do what's actually coming up for me right now. My intention is I want to feel true compassion and love energy from source. That's my intention. Okay. I'm going to state that. I'm going to take a few moments and then I'm going to do what I call drop down. So this is me anchoring into kind of this world. I'm going to take some deep breaths. Everybody's breathing protocol is different for what that looks like. I just do like 3 very intentional a set of 3 very intentional breaths, right? Where I am consciously breathing in, I'm consciously releasing. As I'm doing this, I am imagining, sensing, seeing, feeling, knowing that I am basically expanding kind of my energy field, right, to something that is bigger and larger than myself. So I'm essentially morphing or meshing. Meshing is probably a better word, right? I'm essentially meshing outside of myself with the things that are around me. Okay. So I've set my intention. I've done my breathing to ground myself in. And now I am just going to be open because this intention was I wanted to feel love and compassion, right? So I'm going to just be sorry about my eyes closed, but because I do because I do it when I'm talking about it, whatever, here we are. So I've dropped into space and I'm just holding that intention in my mind, receiving love and compassion. And then, but this is the key, I am going to be open to any prompts that come up. So when I just did that, myself said to myself, put your hand on your heart, right? So if I set the intention, I always say energy follows intent. We trust the intention that we set and the energy to follow it. So if I set the intention in the beginning, when I'm in the space for that intention to play out, I am now trusting the things that come through that. So when that thing just dropped in my head that said put my hand on my heart, I'm going to do that. Right? And I might take another few deep breaths. And the thing is, I'm not expecting for like big fireworks or anything, right? I am just present in the moment for as long as I can be there. And then when I'm done, I reverse everything that I did. So if I saw myself mesh and expand out when I'm getting ready to be done, so this goes back to earlier with the just how do we disconnect the things, right? I'm very intentional about all of my connections and disconnections. Okay. So if I saw myself mesh and expand out, I'm going to see myself come back in. I'm essentially just going to reverse what I did, right? And I'm going to thank divine spirit for coming in. And I'll do that consistently until I feel what I need to feel. Oftentimes I say we don't get to the thing that we're desiring because we stop right before we get there, right? And all of this is a muscle. The more you do it, the better you get. All right. Yes. Well, join us in Brazil, Pisces Pret. We will be there. It's great. We had a fabulous time last year, and I'm excited about going this year as well. All right, y'all. So I think I went through all of the questions. I think I got everybody. Yes. Got them all. Thank y'all so much for joining me tonight. It's been fabulous. Love it. Hopefully, I will see y'all on Saturday or at some other thing. My other thing is, if you're not on my newsletter, if you're not a part of my community, I do send out a newsletter twice a month. I give tips and exercises and all of that stuff all the time. So you can join our community and get that stuff. But what I was going to say was my booking calendar is closing on December, I think 21st. So if you were wanting, I know some people like to do, like kind of going into the closing out the year or getting ready to go into the new year. People like to book me or so I do Akashic record readings, I do ancestral readings, and I do intuitive readings. But my booking calendar will be closed until some point in January. I can't remember now the dates, but if you're interested, make sure you get on the calendar now. I will be taking sessions during that time. You just won't be able to book one during that time. All right. So until next time, remember you deserve to live a life that lights you up from the inside out. Thank y'all. Have a good night.